first week of the semester always feels like a storm, rushing from one lecture to the next, trying to get into the right courses, wondering if I've made the right choices, and feeling overwhelmed by all the books I'll need to read. And let me tell you, this semester start was no exception. But even though it's been a week of chaos, partly because of bad weather, late trains, and sitting on the floors of lecture halls because they were so overfull, it has also been so great to be back, to spend time with my friends again and to spend time on what is most dear to me in life, literature. And let me tell you, after a week of chaos and unexpected changes, I think I found a lineup of courses that might just make this my favorite semester yet. Hello everyone, hi! Welcome to this video where I tell you everything about my first week back at uni, and I'll let you know which courses I'll end up taking in this semester. In case this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, hello, I'm Maria. I study comparative literature at the University of Vienna, and this will be my 5th semester. So if you like literature content, I hope you'll stick around. And I also hope you'll check out my French literature course that I'll link in the description box below. Also, if you want to support this channel financially, I always really appreciate that. I leave the link for my Ko-fi account down in the description box as well. So let's go through my course lineup for this semester, starting with the most exciting course about Marcel Proust. A dedicated seminar all about Marcel Proust's status in world literature, what makes him special, translations of his work, adaptations, how other authors have read him, and how Proust himself was influenced by different authors. So yeah, if you know anything about me, you already know I'll be waxing lyrical about this course for the next months. I'm super excited. We're gonna read most likely book 1, 2, and 7 together in the course. And I'm just so happy. It's honestly such a highlight in my week. And the class is lovely, the professor is great. So yeah, if you have been around for a while and you remember my vlog from a year ago when I was just getting to Paris and I wanted to enroll for a Marcel Proust course and it didn't work out and I was really sad. The tables have turned, my friends, the tables have turned. The next course I'll be following is one on literary theory that is a little bit difficult to translate, but it's something about the phantasm of writing. And the basic idea of the course is that the gesture of literature, what literature does, is always fantasizing. Literature creates a reality that is an alternative to the one that we have. So it's not about the fantasy genre necessarily, it's more fundamental than that. It's about the idea that without fantasy there would be no literature at all, because literature plays with what could have been or what could be, as opposed to how things are in reality. And up until now we have talked about where fantasy even comes from, how do people fantasize. We talked about some psychoanalytic perspectives on why people are ashamed of their fantasies and how authors are essentially just people that admit to their fantasies and they write them down, whereas others only think about them. The next course I'll be taking is a Norwegian language course that should get me up to level B1. I have studied Norwegian before, level A1 and A2, but I've had to stop a year ago when I went to Paris, and I basically haven't spoken Norwegian since. So it was definitely a steep entry this week. When I went to the course for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot literally everything. I don't know any of the words anymore. But already in the few hours that I've been there, it has started to come back up, right? Digging out skeletons in my brain kind of feeling. I probably should have studied some Norwegian this summer to prepare myself, but I'm sure it will work out. I'm just very determined to learn Norwegian, even though it makes no sense. I don't need this course anymore, but it's just great to have the opportunity because it's difficult to learn Norwegian at a higher level outside the university system, and it's also expensive if you do it that way. So yeah, wish me luck. Moving on to the next course, also a real highlight for me, Literature and Psychoanalysis, Comparative Perspectives. So this course is about the intersections of literature and psychoanalysis. We'll be reading some key texts by Freud about literature. We'll look at how Freud built his theories with the help of literature, Freud's approach to art, and then we'll also look at authors who have taken Freud's ideas and kind of ran with them and worked the psychoanalytic approach into their novels, like Arthur Schnitzler, Giulio Cortázar, or Thomas Mann's Magic Mountain being some of the examples. And there are, of course, also authors who have fought against the intermingling of literature and psychoanalysis, like Vladimir Nabokov, Karl Kraus, and Michel Houellebecq. It'll also be a little bit about Lacan, but mostly about Freud. And we'll also look at Freud as a writer himself. I think it was Harold Bloom who famously said that reading Sigmund Freud is like reading a prose version of Shakespeare. And in the last lecture of the course, we'll go to the Freud Museum in Vienna. So that's great. Moving on to a course called The History of Reading, Overview and Challenges. So this course is basically about how people read across time. So not just what they read, but how they read and why and what were the circumstances. I imagine we'll be talking about what percentage of the population has been reading, who has had access to books, all of that, and how we've kind of gone from reading out loud to reading silently. We'll also look at things like marginalia, right, the little scribbles you do in your books, and what they tell us about how people have interacted with books over time. So this course is most likely going to be part history, part sociology, part literature, and I just think that's really beautiful. I love a little bit of a meta perspective about reading. And one highlight of this course is going to be a guest lecture by some people who are working on a project on audiobooks at the University of Vienna. So, I don't know, it's a very interdisciplinary research project. I think they're even testing how well people retain things when they read as opposed to when they listen to, and I don't know, things like that. It sounds interesting. Okay, let's take a quick break from the courses because I have to tell you that all the courses that I've mentioned up until now, I don't actually strictly need them for my degree. And that is a little bit of a problem I keep running into. There are just so many courses that I find super intriguing, and I have to kind of balance them with courses that actually give me credit points towards my degree. But I've been to all the courses that I've talked about up until now, and the jury is not still out. I love them and I want to keep following them. However, if things get too stressful, inevitably, I might have to shelve a couple of those courses, which is not a big problem. Usually there's audio recordings and I can just catch up with them a little bit later once the semester is over or in some vacation or something. But all I'm saying is I can't promise I'll stick to them throughout the entire semester, because the other 4 courses that I yet have to get to, they should really be at the top of my priority list. Actually, maybe there might be a way where I can get some credits from the courses that I've mentioned up until now. I'll have to move some things around, but not that many. Okay, so let me tell you about the actual courses that I should prioritize because they count towards my degree. The first course is a history of philosophy course about antiquity. It hasn't started yet, so I can't tell you that much about it now, but presumably it will be about the Greeks. So we start with old fragments like poems, myths, and see how authors from back then tried to explain the world. And then we move into Plato and Aristotle, of course. And then the curriculum says we'll go up to Epicurus and the Neoplatonists and all that. I am excited about the course, a little bit scared because it will be my first actual philosophy course. But I'm so glad that I'll finally get to close that Bildungslücke. What is that in English when you have a hole in your education? I don't think you say that in English, but that's what it feels like. It's like this area of study that would be really handy, right? Knowing about the history of philosophy, very helpful to study literature as well. And I've always felt like, yeah, I want to dive into that at some point. So I'm finally doing it. And this semester is the first out of 3 courses. So if all goes well, I'll do philosophy for 1.5 years now, and then I'll probably know a lot more than I do now, which is next to nothing. And then the third course that I need, another definite highlight, it is one in philosophical aesthetics, and it's called What is Art? Essentially, we'll be reading texts every week that have a different view on what art is. So each week we ask ourselves a different question, right? For example, is art experience? Is art empathy? Is art mimesis? Is art taste? Is art self-expression? Is art enlightenment? I'm very excited about this course. It's going to be a lot of self-study, and one text on the reading list as an example will be Leo Tolstoy's What is Art? Next course is called Approaching Literatures in English. I wrote down this is another one I haven't started yet. That's not true. I had the first session this morning at 8 o'clock, which was way too early. And it's a course from the English department. I have to do 3 courses from the English department as part of my degree. One is about the history of North American literature, one is about the history of English literature, and then the third one is this course called Approaching Literatures in English. And this course is really about giving students a toolkit for literary analysis and interpretation. We basically learn how to do literary criticism ourselves and what the terminology is, how to recognize a poem, a sonnet, what is meter, what is a verse, and how is that different when you're working in the English language and with English texts. That's truly the only course that I wasn't super hyped about this semester. But then when I had the first session this morning, the professor is so nice. She's incredibly kind. She oozes love for literature, so it doesn't really matter what she talks about. She just kind of draws you in because she's so passionate about what she does. She's a poetry professor, really cool. She's very interested in poetry theory and cognitive poetics, and she told us this morning that our primary text for the course will be Hamlet. So that's the primary theater text, and then there's going to be a bunch of poems and things. I think I've seen T.S. Eliot. Today we already talked about John Keats. And lastly, for my courses will be one called Basics of and Approaches in Psychoanalytic Theories of Society. A lot of the courses I've talked about today, including this one, they're part of my chosen specialization. They're not strictly part of the literature curriculum. So they are not strictly about literature, but I have to specialize in 3 different topics throughout my degree, and this is going to be one of them, psychoanalytic approaches to society and culture. And the gist is that Freud tried to understand society through the same lens that he tried to understand individuals. He wondered where mass movements come from, why authority feels so irresistible sometimes, and he had a lot of ideas about the unconscious, identification, aggression, all of that. And the course then also moves away from Freud and talks about thinkers who have kind of picked up where Freud left it in terms of theories about society. And I just know that this course is going to be incredibly fascinating because I've already started it last semester. I wanted to take it last semester, but then things got too busy. It's a perfect add-on to literature, I feel. It's just a little bit of a different perspective, once again, of reading a text with a bit more background knowledge. And on the reading list are Sigmund Freud, of course, Theodor Adorno, Erich Fromm, Wilhelm Reich, Max Horkheimer, Judith Butler, etc., etc., etc. So those are my 4 courses that I should prioritize, and the 5 that I love just for the sake of them. I'll see how I go. I'm really excited, but it's probably gonna be too much. I can already tell 9 courses. There's no way I'm keeping up perfectly with all of them and making YouTube videos and doing things like sleeping and moving my body. But isn't every single one of these topics just so great? It's truly such a great semester. Like, the constellation of courses just gets me so excited. And part of what makes this lineup so good is that I have taken a decision halfway through the week to stop taking German literature lessons. So if you have followed my videos before, you know that one of the specializations I talked about, I thought for me would be German literature. And that was also my initial plan. So I went to a couple of German literature lectures this week, and I've also already taken a course last semester. But I've had a really good conversation with Nataschas. She actually also has a book YouTube channel. We're YouTube friends. And she also studies literature, and she's doing a semester abroad in Austria, in Vienna now. She's from Germany. And we are super happy. I mean, I'm super happy that I get to see her a bit more now. I'll link her channel if you want German book content. But anyways, we walked to the train after the Literature and Psychoanalysis session, and I've just realized while talking to her that I'm feeling extremely lukewarm about the German literature department, all the courses they offer. I'm sure the professors are great, I'm not like criticizing anyone. It's just when I compare that to the other courses on this list, I'm just not very excited about the courses, right? There's one on German science fiction and one about children and YA literature, and it's like, sure, it would be good to know about those things, I guess. And I always have that feeling of like, well, I'm studying, so I should know about children's literature, for example, or science fiction, because how embarrassing when I leave university and I, tell people I study literature and I don't know anything. I've never read a book of science fiction or something, which is not entirely true, but you get my point. So I was a little bit at a fork in the road this week. I thought, well, do I go down the German literature path and do what I think would be good for me to know and just not be very excited about? Or do I lean all in on what I think is really my exciting path forward? I don't know exactly where it's pulling me, but the intersection of philosophy and literature and psychology is just very, very exciting to me. I gravitate towards that a lot. And I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna go with what my heart says and trust that it leads me down the right path, because there are so many domains of literature that I don't know about anyways, right? I can never cover the whole field, even if I take a few courses in the German literature department. So why not just allow myself to go all in on the literary theory and theories of society and philosophy and stuff of it all. So yeah, that's the change. It doesn't mean I'm not going to talk about German literature. As I've said, I've already taken a course and I have quite a lot of material, and I still want to read lots of German books. It's just that those specialized courses, they were not really doing it for me. I was also partly taking those courses because I thought, well, if ever I don't find another job, maybe I can work as a German teacher in a high school or something. But honestly, to just drag myself through a semester now, because I think maybe 10 years down the road, it might be great if I have some German literature courses on my resume. Like it's just not a good way to make a decision. And I also don't really want to be a teacher, so I don't know, I abandoned that safety net in my mind, I guess. So that is it. Thank you for sitting with me through this doozy of a video. I appreciate you so much, and I can't wait to make more content about new things that I'm learning. So if you have any suggestions or anything interests you in particular, I'm so happy to hear from you. And other than that, I send you so much love, and I'll see you around next time. Bye bye.